The alien queen raised her hand. "Touch me again, human," she said. Her golden eyes narrowed as she looked down at the small human female before her. Commander Zoe Miller stood her ground despite being half the height of the towering Viridian queen. "I meant no offense, Your Majesty," Zoe said, keeping her voice steady. "On Earth, a handshake is how we greet new allies." Queen Zalara tilted her head, making the jewels in her crest chime softly. The sound echoed through the massive crystal throne room, where dozens of other Viridian females watched with interest. Their species had never encountered humans before the emergency landing of the exploration vessel, Starlight, on their planet. "Interesting," Queen Zalara said. Her voice had a musical quality that made Zoe shiver. "We Viridians share thoughts through touch. It is considered intimate." Zoe nodded, understanding the cultural misunderstanding. She was the only survivor of the crash that had brought her to this planet of warrior women. A planet with technology far beyond what humans had developed. "I apologize for the intrusion," Zoe said. "I only wish to contact my people. They believe I died in the crash." The queen studied her with those strange golden eyes that seemed to see through Zoe completely. The Viridians were an impressive species, tall, muscular, with iridescent skin in shades of green and blue. They were an all-female species who reproduced through genetic engineering. "Perhaps," the queen said finally, "there is value in learning your human ways." To the shock of the watching court, Queen Zalara extended her seven-fingered hand toward Zoe. "Show me this handshake." Zoe swallowed hard, aware that this moment could determine the future relationship between humans and this powerful, alien civilization. She reached up and gently took the queen's hand. The moment their skin touched, a jolt of energy passed between them. Zoe gasped as images flooded her mind. The vastness of space, the history of the Viridian people, their wars, their triumphs. Their fears. The queen jerked back her eyes wide. "You," she whispered, "you received my thoughts." The court erupted in shocked murmurs. No non-Viridian had ever been able to connect telepathically with them. "Is that not normal?" Zoe asked, feeling suddenly vulnerable. "It is unprecedented," the queen said. Her expression had changed from cautious interest to something more intense. "You must stay in the palace while we investigate this phenomenon." Guards moved forward, but their posture was not threatening. Zoe realized she was no longer a prisoner, but had become something far more valuable. A curiosity. "I will arrange quarters for you," the queen said. "You will be treated as an honored guest." Zoe bowed slightly, knowing that resistance would be pointless against an entire planet of warriors. "Thank you for your hospitality, Your Majesty." As Zoe was led away, she noticed the queen watching her with an expression that seemed almost hungry. It made Zoe wonder what exactly she had gotten herself into. The quarters provided to Zoe were luxurious beyond anything she had experienced even on Earth. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living crystal that glowed softly, providing perfect illumination. The bed, if it could be called, that was a floating platform covered in material softer than silk. Food appeared through a mechanism in the wall, all of it tested to be compatible with human biology. Zoe spent the first day exploring her rooms and trying to understand the technology around her. The second day she began to feel restless, and by the third she was pacing like a caged animal. She was a space commander not used to being confined. On the fourth day her door chimed and slid open, revealing a Viridian female smaller than the others Zoe had seen, with light blue skin and silver patterns along her arms. "I am Lena," the Viridian said with a slight bow. "The queen has assigned me to be your guide and translator." "Translator?" Zoe asked. "But we are speaking the same language." Lena made a gesture that Zoe interpreted as amusement. "No, I am using a neural field to interpret your speech, and you are hearing my words in your language. It is not perfect, but it functions." Zoe was impressed. "That is incredible technology. It is basic," Lena said with that same gesture of amusement. "Come, the queen wishes for you to learn about our world if you are to stay among us." "How long am I expected to stay?" Zoe asked, following Lena out of the room. "That is for the queen to decide." Lena said, "But your ability to connect mentally with our kind is of great interest. No other species has ever been able to do this." They walked through vast corridors made of the same crystal as Zoe's room. Viridian females of various shades of blue and green moved purposefully about. Some wore elaborate armor while others were dressed in flowing robes. All of them stopped to stare at Zoe as she passed. "Your world is beautiful," Zoe said, trying to break the awkward silence. "Viridia is the jewel of this sector," Lena agreed. "We have cultivated our environment for 20,000 years." 20,000, Zoe repeated, impressed. "Humans have only had advanced technology for a few hundred." "Yes, we know," Lena said. "We studied the databanks from your ship. We were surprised by how quickly your species has advanced despite your tendency toward conflict." Zoe wasn't sure if that was a compliment or criticism. "We are young as a spacefaring species, but we learn quickly." Lena led her to a platform that began to descend as soon as they stepped on it. "The Queen believes your species may have potential. That is why she is interested in you." The platform took them deep below the palace to a vast chamber filled with plants and pools of glowing. Liquid viridians worked among the vegetation, some harvesting, others tending to seedlings. "This is one of our cultivation centers," Lena explained. "We grow our food, medicine, and building materials here." "You grow your buildings?" Zoe asked, looking around with new interest. "Of course," Lena said. "Dead materials are inefficient. Living structures adapt, repair themselves, and respond to needs." Zoe thought about the sterile metal of human ships and stations. "We have much to learn from each other, it seems." Lena gave her an appraising look. "Perhaps that is what the Queen sees in you, your willingness to learn." As they continued the tour, Zoe noticed that many of the Viridians were watching her with the same intense curiosity. The feeling of being studied made her uncomfortable, but she reminded herself that she was an explorer. First contact was her mission, even if it had happened in an unexpected way. "Will I be meeting with the Queen again?" Zoe asked as they returned to the upper levels. "When she summons you," Lena said. "For now, you will learn our ways." Zoe nodded, accepting this. She had no choice but to play along until she could find a way to contact Earth. But as she thought about the Queen, about the moment their hands had touched, she realized part of her was eager for that next meeting. There was something about Queen Zalara that fascinated her just as much as she fascinated them. Zoe worked through the night with the Viridian engineers. Their efficiency was remarkable. The way they integrated their biological technology with human mechanical systems was nothing short of genius. By dawn, the communications array was operational. "Are ready for transmission," the lead engineer said to Zoe. "The Queen wishes to be present." Zoe nodded, wiping sweat from her brow. "Of course." They waited only a short while before Queen Zalara arrived. Her formal armor glinted in the early morning light, and her crest jewels had been restored. She looked every inch the ruler of a powerful civilization. "Commander Miller," she said, inclining her head. "You have worked quickly. The situation demands it." "Your Majesty," Zoe replied. "And your engineers are exceptional." The Queen made a gesture of acknowledgement. "Begin the transmission. We have enhanced the signal. It should reach your nearest outpost within hours, rather than days." Zoe turned to the array, taking a deep breath. This was the moment she'd been waiting for since the crash. But now the message carried far more weight than just her own rescue. She activated the system and spoke clearly. "This is Commander Zoe Miller of Earth Exploration Vessel Starlight Emergency Protocol Alpha 793. I am alive and on the planet designated Viridia in the Calum sector. I have made first contact with an advanced civilization, the Viridians. They are peaceful and wish to establish diplomatic relations with Earth." She paused, looking at the Queen, who nodded encouragingly. "Priority alert," Zoe continued. "Evidence of hostile species designated Draxus in this sector. Potential threat to all civilizations. Request immediate diplomatic mission to Viridia. Coordinates follow." She entered the stellar coordinates and added authentication codes that would prove her identity. Then she recorded a more detailed message explaining her situation, the Viridian culture, and the potential alliance against the Draxus threat. When she finished, the transmission was sent on multiple frequencies using both human and Viridian technology to boost the signal. "Now we wait," Zoe said, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. "How long until your people respond?" the Queen asked. "If the signal reaches the outpost at Proxima Station, they could respond within a day or two. If it has to go all the way to Earth, it could be a week." The Queen nodded. "Then we have time to prepare. I wish for you to join my war council, Commander. Your knowledge of human military tactics may prove useful." Zoe was surprised by the request. "I would be honored, Your Majesty." For the next several days, Zoe split her time between monitoring the communications array and attending council meetings. The Viridians had extensive intelligence on the Draxus. Their warships, their tactics, their weapons, all were formidable. "They have destroyed 17 known civilizations in the past century," the military commander named Vela explained, showing holographic representations of devastated worlds. "They do not negotiate, they do not accept surrender." "How have they not attacked Viridia before now?" Zoe asked. "Studying the maps, we have remained hidden." Queen Zalara said, "Our technology allows us to mask our energy signatures, and we have avoided expansion beyond our home system, isolation as protection." Zoe murmured, "But that can't last forever." "No," the Queen agreed, "which is why an alliance with Earth and other worlds may be our only hope." On the 5th day, as they were discussing defensive strategies, a Viridian messenger burst into the council chamber. Her crest was flared in excitement. "Majesty," she said, bowing quickly, "we have received a response from Earth." Zoe felt her heart leap. They had made it. The signal had gone through. They rushed to the communication station where technicians were already working to clean up the incoming message. Finally, the screen cleared, showing the face of Admiral Kate Wilson, commander of Earth's space fleet. Her expression was one of shock and relief. "Commander Miller," she said, "we had given you up for dead. This is extraordinary news." "Admiral," Zoe said, standing at attention despite her informal attire, "the situation here is complex but presents an unprecedented opportunity." "So, your message indicated," Admiral Wilson said, her eyes shifting to the Queen who stood beside Zoe. "Is this Queen Zalara of Viridia?" Zoe confirmed, "Leader of the Viridian people." The Queen stepped forward. "Admiral Wilson, I greet you on behalf of my people. We have much to discuss." The Admiral blinked clearly, still processing the reality of first contact. "Indeed, Your Majesty. Earth is prepared to send a diplomatic mission immediately. The information regarding the Draxus threat is particularly concerning." "It should be," the Queen said gravely. "They are a scourge upon the galaxy." They spoke for nearly an hour, working out the details of the diplomatic mission. A ship would be dispatched within days, carrying ambassadors, scientists, and military advisors. They would arrive in approximately 3 months using Earth's fastest vessel. When the transmission ended, Zoe felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that contact had been made. Pride that she had facilitated this historic moment. And yet a curious reluctance at the thought of leaving Viridia. "Your people responded well," Queen Zalara said as they left the communications center. "Admiral Wilson is pragmatic," Zoe replied. "The threat of the Draxus would concern her even without the opportunity for first contact." The Queen looked at her with those piercing golden eyes. "When your people arrive, will you return with them to Earth?" The question caught Zoe off guard. She hadn't considered it. I don't know. That would be the normal protocol. And if I requested you remain as our liaison?" The Queen asked, her voice carefully neutral. "That would be unusual but not unprecedented," Zoe said, considering the idea. "In cases of significant diplomatic importance sometimes, personnel are assigned to remain." "Consider it." The Queen said simply, "You have a unique connection to our people that may prove valuable in the times ahead." Before Zoe could respond, alarms began to sound throughout the palace. The Queen's communication device chimed urgently. she answered, her expression darkening as she listened. "What is it?" Zoe asked when the Queen ended the call. "The Draxus scout ship has changed course," she said, tension evident in her voice. "It is moving toward Viridia. Have they detected the planet?" "We do not know," the Queen said, already moving toward the war room, "but we must prepare for that possibility." The next few days were a flurry of activity. Defensive systems were activated. Warships were prepared. The Viridian, military long dormant, sprang to life with practiced efficiency. Zoe was impressed by their readiness. "Your people seem well prepared for a species that has avoided conflict." "We are peaceful, not naive," Queen Zalara said as they reviewed battle plans. "We have maintained our defensive capabilities even as we hoped never to use them." The scout ship continued its approach, moving in an erratic pattern that suggested it was conducting scans. Viridian technology scrambled these scans, projecting false readings, but no one knew how effective these countermeasures would be against Draxus sensors. On the third day, Zoe was awakened in the middle of the night by Lena. "The Queen requests your presence immediately," she said, her voice urgent. Zoe dressed, quickly following Lena to a part of the palace she had never seen before. Deep underground, they entered a vast chamber filled with glowing crystals and complex biological machinery. At the center, Queen Zalara stood with her chief scientist, Nara Commander. The Queen said as Zoe entered, "We may have discovered something significant." Nara stepped forward. "When you and the Queen connected mentally the first time, we recorded unusual energy patterns that match our planetary defense system." "Don't understand," Zoe said, looking between them. "Our defenses are psionic in nature," the Queen explained. "They rely on the combined mental energy of Viridians to create shields and disruptive fields. And somehow I interact with this system," Zoe said, trying to grasp the implications. "More than interact," Nara said excitedly. "You amplify it. Our tests show that when you and the Queen are in mental contact, the energy output increases by a factor of 10. Zoe stared at them. "What are you suggesting?" "Queen," Zalara met her gaze, "that together we might be able to enhance our planetary defenses, perhaps enough to completely hide Viridia from Draxus sensors." "By touching hands?" Zoe asked skeptically. "By forming a deeper connection?" The Queen said, "A true mental bond." Zoe felt a flutter of apprehension. "Is that dangerous?" "There is risk," Nara admitted. "No non-Viridian has ever attempted such a connection, but our simulations suggest it is possible. And if it fails," the Queen stepped closer, her golden eyes intense, "then we face the Draxus with conventional defenses and hope they are enough." Zoe looked around the chamber at the ancient technology, at the faces of the Viridians who had welcomed her and shown her their world. She thought of Earth, months away and vulnerable if the Draxus continued their expansion. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her decision made. Relief showed on the Queen's face. "Come," she said, leading Zoe to the center of the chamber where a platform of crystal rose from the floor. "We must prepare you." A week passed before Zoe was summoned to the Queen's presence. In that time, she had learned much about Viridian culture through Lena and her daily tours of the city. Their technology was biological rather than mechanical. Plants and living crystal, grown into specific forms, served the functions that metals and plastics did for humans. When the summons finally came, Zoe was led to a different chamber than the throne room. This space was smaller, more intimate, with glowing plants providing soft illumination and pools of clear liquid that seemed to sing as they flowed through channels in the floor. Queen Zalara was waiting, seated on a low bench. Her formal regalia was absent, replaced by a simple garment that reminded Zoe of a toga. Her crest. Jewels had been removed, showing the natural ridges of her head. "Commander Miller," she said, rising as Zoe entered, "I trust you find our world interesting." "Fascinating would be more accurate." "Your Majesty," Zoe replied with a small bow, "your people have achieved harmony with nature in ways humans can only dream of." The Queen gestured for Zoe to sit on a bench across from her. "And yet, your people have developed space travel weapons and technologies we find equally fascinating." Zoe sat, keeping her posture formal. Different evolutionary paths, different solutions. Indeed, the Queen agreed. Which brings me to why I have summoned you. Our scientists have been studying the data from our first encounter. Zoe tensed. The handshake. Yes. Queen. Zalara leaned forward slightly. No other species has ever been able to receive Viridian thoughts, not even those we have allied with for centuries. You are unique. I don't understand why. Zoe said honestly. I'm not psychic. I have no special abilities. Perhaps. Among humans you do not. The Queen said. But something in your neural structure resonates with ours. It is as if... She paused, searching for words. As if our species were meant to find each other. Zoe wasn't sure how to respond to that. The intensity in the Queen's golden eyes made her uncomfortable and intrigued at the same time. What does this mean for me? Am I to remain a guest in your palace indefinitely? The Queen made a musical sound that Zoe had learned was laughter. You are direct, Commander. I appreciate that. No, I have a proposal. She stood and moved to one of the singing pools, dipping her fingers into the liquid. The song changed, becoming more complex. My scientists believe that with study, we could develop a way for humans and Viridians to communicate more effectively. Perhaps even teach some of your people to receive our thoughts as you do. That would be revolutionary for interspecies communication, Zoe said, understanding the implications. But I am just one human. There may be something unique about my brain. Precisely why we need more humans, the Queen said, turning back to her. I propose that we help you repair your communication systems. Contact your people. Tell them of what you've discovered here. Invite a delegation. Zoe stared at her. You would do that. It serves our interests as much as yours. The Queen said practically, the galaxy grows more dangerous. Each year brings news of another conflict, another species destroyed. We Viridians have remained isolated, but that cannot continue forever. We need allies. And you want humans to be those allies, Zoe said slowly. You are young, aggressive, innovative. Queen Zalara said, we are ancient, patient, methodical together. We might balance each other. Zoe considered this. It was a diplomatic opportunity beyond anything she could have hoped for. I would need to be honest about everything I've seen here. Of course, the Queen said, I would expect nothing less. Then I accept, Zoe said. When can I begin repairs? On my communications array. Tomorrow, the Queen said. Lena will take you to what remains of your ship. Our engineers will assist you. The Queen approached Zoe, then stopping just before her. There is one more thing I would ask. Zoe looked up at her. What is that? I wish to try the connection again, she said, extending her hand. With your permission. Zoe hesitated, remembering the flood of images and emotions from their first touch, but curiosity won out. She reached up and took the Queen's hand. This time she was prepared for the connection, but it was still overwhelming. Images, feelings, knowledge flowed between them. But now Zoe could sense the Queen's curiosity, her fascination with humans, with Zoe specifically. And beneath that, something else, a loneliness that came from centuries of rule. When they broke contact, Zoe was breathing hard. You saw my thoughts too, didn't you? The Queen nodded. Your courage, your determination, your love for your people, and your loneliness. It mirrors my own. Zoe hadn't expected such honesty. Being in command separates you from others. Yes, the Queen said softly. Few understand that burden. For a moment they looked at each other with new understanding. Then the Queen stepped back, resuming her formal posture. Lena will come for you at first light. Be ready. Zoe bowed. Thank you, Your Majesty. As she was led back to her quarters, Zoe found herself thinking about the Queen, not as an alien ruler, but as a person with her own struggles and hopes. It made their potential alliance seem more real, more important. The next morning, Lena arrived as promised, leading Zoe through parts of the city she hadn't seen before. They traveled in a floating vehicle made from the same living crystal as the buildings passing, over vast gardens and structures that seemed to grow from the ground itself. The crash site is in the southern forest, Lena explained. Much of your ship was salvageable. I tried to land as gently as possible, Zoe said with a grim smile. Not easy. When your engines are failing and your navigation system is fried. You did well, Lena said. Most would have perished in such an attempt. They arrived at a clearing where the remains of the Starlight sat partially covered by a shimmering dome Viridian. Engineers moved around it carefully, extracting components and studying them. We have preserved everything, Lena said. The Queen ordered that nothing be damaged. Zoe felt a rush of gratitude. That was thoughtful. They spent the day working on the communications array. Zoe was impressed by how quickly the Viridian engineers grasped human technology. Their suggestions for improving the signal strength were innovative, using biological components to enhance the mechanical ones. By nightfall, they had made significant progress. The communications array was nearly operational, but would need final adjustments the next day. Zoe was exhausted but satisfied. As they prepared to return to the palace, Lena received a message that made her crest flare in what Zoe had learned was alarm. What is it? Zoe asked. The Queen requests your immediate presence, Lena said, her voice tense. Something has happened. They rushed back to the palace, taking a direct route that bypassed the usual security measures. When they arrived, Queen Zalara was in her war room surrounded by military commanders. All looked grim. Commander Miller, the Queen said as Zoe entered. We have received disturbing news. A Draxus scout ship has been detected at the edge of our system. Draxus. Zoe repeated, unfamiliar with the name. A species known for their aggression and expansion. The Queen explained. They destroy worlds that resist assimilation. Zoe felt a chill. Have they detected your planet? We do not believe so, one of the military commanders said. But it is only a matter of time. They are methodical in their exploration. How soon until my communications array is functional? The Queen asked. Tomorrow if we push. Zoe said. But even then, Earth is months away at fastest speed. They could not help in time if you're attacked. Perhaps not, Queen Zalara said. But we should establish contact nonetheless. The Draxus threat affects all species in this sector. Zoe nodded, understanding the urgency. I'll work through the night if necessary. The Queen looked at her with approval. Your dedication is noted, Commander. We will provide whatever resources you need. As the military council continued, Zoe realized that her simple crash landing had become something far more significant. She was now part of a first contact situation that could determine the fate of two species, and somehow she and this alien queen were at the center of it all. The preparation took hours. Zoe was bathed in glowing liquids that tingled against her skin. She drank a sweet beverage that Nara assured her would help her mind remain stable during the connection. Viridian healers placed crystals on her forehead and chest, monitoring her vital signs. The process we are attempting is ancient, the Queen explained as they worked. In our history, there were times when our queens would form deep mental bonds with chosen warriors to enhance their abilities. But never with another species, Zoe said. Understanding the risk they were taking, no. Queen Zalara admitted, this is unprecedented, but your natural ability to receive our thoughts gives me hope. When the preparations were complete, Zoe was dressed in a simple Viridian garment made of flowing material that seemed to shimmer with its own light. The Queen, too, had changed, removing her armor and royal symbols. Now she was simply Zalara. They stood face to face on the crystal platform. The chamber had filled with Viridians, all watching in solemn silence. Nara and other scientists monitored equipment, while military leaders stood ready for whatever might happen. Are you ready? Zalara asked, her voice. Gentle, Zoe nodded. As ill ever be. First we touch, Zalara said, extending her hands, palms up. Then we open our minds fully to one another. You must not resist, no matter what you see or feel. Zoe placed her hands on Zalara's. The now familiar jolt of connection passed between them. But this time, instead of pulling away, they leaned into it. Zoe gasped as her mind expanded beyond her body. She could see herself and Zalara from above, could feel the energy flowing through the chamber, could sense the minds of every Viridian present. Then Zalara's consciousness engulfed her. All pretense, all barriers fell away. Zoe saw the Queen's entire life, her childhood, her training, her ascension to the throne, her fears, her hopes, the weight of responsibility that sometimes crushed her, the loneliness of her position, and Solara saw Zoe in turn, her upbringing on Earth, her drive to explore the stars, the losses she had endured, the determination that defined her, the emptiness she sometimes felt even surrounded by her crew. In that moment they knew each other completely. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was held back beyond their joined consciousness. Zoe became aware of something vast. The planetary defense system, a network of minds and machines working in harmony to protect Viridia. She could feel it responding to them, drawing energy from their connection growing stronger. Now, Salara's voice echoed in her mind. Reach out with me. Feel the shields, strengthen them. Together they extended their combined consciousness, pushing outward, enveloping the planet in layers of protection. Zoe had never experienced anything like this. The power flowing through her was both terrifying and exhilarating. She could feel the Draxus ship now, a dark presence probing, seeking, but the shields were responding, turning aside those probes reflecting false data. Time lost meaning. In the mental space they occupied, Zoe and Zalara worked in perfect harmony, their minds so thoroughly linked that it became difficult to know where one ended and the other began. Finally, after what might have been minutes or hours, Zalara began to withdraw gently, guiding Zoe back to herself. It was like waking from a vivid dream. The crystal chamber reformed around her. The sensation of her own body returned. The connection faded, leaving only an echo of that profound unity. They stood swaying slightly, hands still joined. Both were covered in a sheen of sweat, their breathing ragged. Zoe felt Zalara's hands trembling against hers, or perhaps it was her own hands that trembled. Did it work? She managed to ask, her voice hoarse. Nara rushed forward, checking readings. Incredible, she breathed. The shields are at maximum strength. The configuration is entirely new, more powerful than anything we've achieved before. The Draxus ship. Zalara asked her, voice as strained as Zoe's. It has changed course. One of the military commanders reported, excitement breaking through her formal demeanor. Moving away from Viridia. The sensors show it detected nothing of interest here. A cheer went up from the assembled Viridians. Zalara squeezed Zoe's hands once before releasing them. The sudden absence of contact left Zoe feeling bereft, empty. But she straightened, forcing a smile. We did it, she said. We did. Zalara agreed, studying Zoe with concern. How do you feel? Strange. Zoe admitted, like I'm not quite solid, like part of me is still out there with the shields. That is to be expected, Nara said, checking Zoe's vital signs. The connection was profound. Your mind will need time to readjust. Rest. Zalara ordered, both of you. She added to Nara. Monitor the shields, I must recover my strength. Zoe was led to her quarters, but sleep eluded her. Her mind buzzed with the after effects of the connection. She could still feel Zalara at the edges of her consciousness, a gentle presence like a hand resting lightly on her shoulder. And beyond that, the vast network of the planetary shields humming with energy. She tried to sort through what had happened to make sense of the experience, but it defied analysis. It had been too intimate, too profound. She had seen Zalara not as a queen, not as an alien, but as a person who now knew her better than anyone ever had. When morning came, Zoe was summoned not to the war room or the throne room, but to the Queen's private garden, a peaceful space filled with plants and quiet pools. Zalara was waiting seated on a bench, her expression thoughtful. You did not sleep, she said, as Zoe approached. No, Zoe admitted. Too much to process. I understand. Zalara gestured for her to sit. What we experienced was not meant for casual use. Even among Viridians, such a connection is rare, sacred. Zoe sat, keeping a careful distance between them. I can still feel you in my mind. As I can feel you, Zalara said, The connection has not fully dissipated, it may never do so. What does that mean? It means we are bonded in a way few ever experience. Zalara said simply. In Viridian culture, there is a word for this soul bond. It is considered the deepest form of connection. Zoe absorbed this, trying to understand the implications, and between different species. Unprecedented, Zalara said with a small smile, but perhaps inevitable. The moment you took my hand that first day, I sensed something unique, something that called to me. I felt it too, Zoe admitted, though I didn't understand it. They sat in silence for a moment, the air between them charged with unspoken thoughts. The Draxus ship has left our system entirely, Zalara said finally. Your Earth vessel will arrive in 3 months. With our enhanced shields, we should be safe until then. And after. That is what I wished to discuss. Zalara turned to face her fully. The bond we share has implications beyond planetary defense, I believe. It could be the foundation of something greater. An alliance not just of convenience but of true understanding between our peoples. Because we can literally read each other's minds, Zoe said with a wry smile. Precisely. Zalara nodded. No deception, no misunderstanding, just truth. Most diplomats would find that terrifying. Most diplomats have something to hide. Zalara countered. Do you, Zoe thought about it? No, not anymore. You know everything about me now, the good and the bad. As you know. Me, Zalara said softly. That is rare and valuable, Commander Miller. Zoe, she corrected. After what we've shared, I think you can use my given name. The Queen smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face. Zoe, and you may call me Zalara when… We are not in formal settings, Zalara. Zoe tested the name without the title. It felt right. After a moment she asked, what happens when the Earth delegation arrives? That depends partly on you, Zalara said. Will you return with them or stay as our liaison? Zoe looked out over the garden, considering her options. 3 months ago, her only thought had been survival and rescue. Now the idea of leaving this world, leaving Zalara, filled her with a strange sense of loss. I would like to stay, she said finally, at least until the alliance is established. I am pleased to hear it, Zalara said, and Zoe could feel the truth of that statement echoing through their bond. There is much we could learn from each other, Zoe continued. Human ingenuity, combined with Viridian wisdom, our technology with your biological science. Yes, Zalara agreed. And perhaps more importantly, a new understanding between our peoples. As they spoke, Zoe realized that something fundamental had changed not just between them but within her. She was no longer just a human commander stranded on an alien world. She was becoming something else. Something new. A bridge between species, and as the first rays of Viridius' sun broke through the garden canopy, illuminating Zalaris, face Zoe knew with certainty that her life would never be the same. The connection they shared had altered her forever, and somehow that felt exactly right. 3 months passed quickly. Zoe divided her time between learning Viridian culture, strengthening the planetary shields with Zalara, and preparing for the arrival of the Earth delegation. She sent regular updates to Earth, each message carefully crafted to explain the unique opportunity this first contact presented. The bond between her and Zalara deepened. With practice, they learned to control it, to share thoughts deliberately, rather than in a chaotic flood. They could communicate silently, across great distances, a skill that proved useful during planetary defense drills. Zoe became a familiar figure in the palace. The initial awe and suspicion from the Viridians gave way to respect and even friendship. She trained with their warriors, learning their fighting techniques while teaching human tactics in return. She studied with their scientists, helping them understand human technology while absorbing their knowledge of biological engineering. And through it all, Zalara was a constant presence. Sometimes physically at her side during formal functions and council meetings, sometimes just a warm consciousness touching the edges of her mind. Even when engaged in separate activities, they were never truly apart. You have changed, Lena, observed one evening as she and Zoe watched the twin moons rise over the Crystal City. You move differently, speak differently. Is that bad? Zoe asked. No, Lena said with a gesture of amusement. You seem more balanced, more at peace. It was true. Zoe realized the constant drive that had pushed her through the ranks of Earth's space fleet had softened. Not disappeared, but transformed into something more sustainable. Viridian culture, with its emphasis on harmony and patience, had affected her. The night before the Earthship was due to arrive, Zoe found herself unable to sleep. She wandered the palace gardens, eventually making her way to a high balcony overlooking the city. Solara was already there, as if expecting her. Nervous about tomorrow? The Queen asked as Zoe joined her at the railing. A little. Zoe admitted, everything will change. Change is inevitable, Solara said, but not always unwelcome. They stood in companionable silence, watching the lights of the city below. The mental bond between them hummed with shared emotions too complex for words. I have been thinking, Solara said finally, about the future, about what comes after the initial alliance is established. What do you mean? The Draxus are patient. Solara turned. To face her, they will return. Eventually, they will discover Viridia and Earth and other worlds. The threat they pose cannot be countered by a simple treaty between our peoples. You think we need something more? I know we do, Solara said with certainty. A true union, a combining of strengths, a shared purpose. Zoe nodded slowly, understanding, like what we have, but on a larger scale. Precisely, Solara gestured to the city. Imagine it. Viridian biological technology merged with human innovation. Human adaptability combined with Viridian wisdom ships built of living crystal, powered by engines from Earth weapons that use both our sciences, defenses that protect all our worlds. The vision was compelling. Zoe could see it clearly. A new kind of civilization, neither purely human nor purely Viridian, but something greater than both. It would take time, she said. Thinking practically, generations perhaps. All great endeavors do, Solara agreed, but we must begin somewhere. With us, Zoe said softly. With this bond, yes. Solara reached out, taking Zoe's hand. The familiar surge of connection flowed between them, but controlled, now focused. What we have achieved together proves it is possible. Our minds can join without losing their unique qualities. We are stronger together than apart. Through their bond, Zoe could feel Zalaris' hope, her determination, her belief in this vision. And something else, something deeper and more personal. Zalara. Zoe began, uncertain how to express what she was feeling. Queen smiled. I know, Zoe, I can feel it too. Morning brought the arrival of the Earthship, a sleek vessel that seemed crude compared to Viridian design, but still impressive in its own way. A delegation of 30 humans, including diplomats, scientists, military officers and medical personnel, transported down to the surface. Admiral Kate Wilson led them, a tall, imposing woman with gray-streaked hair and sharp eyes. She embraced Zoe briefly before stepping back to inspect her. Commander Miller, on you. Look well for someone who was stranded on an alien planet. The Viridians have been excellent hosts, Admiral, Zoe replied formally. The Admiral nodded, turning her attention to Queen Zalara, who stood regally beside Zoe. Your Majesty, on behalf of Earth, I extend our gratitude for saving our officer and our hope for peaceful relations between our worlds. Zalara inclined her head in acknowledgement. Admiral Wilson, your journey has been long. Let us move to more comfortable surroundings where we can speak freely. The initial meetings were tense. The Earth delegation wary, the Viridian Council reserved. Cultural misunderstandings arose immediately. The humans found Viridian communication too direct, while the Viridians considered human diplomacy unnecessarily convoluted. Through it all, Zoe and Zalara worked together, bridging the gap. Zoe explaining human customs and concerns, Zalara interpreting Viridian traditions and expectations. Their unique bond allowed them to coordinate perfectly, anticipating issues before they became problems. On the third day, Admiral Wilson took Zoe aside. You've gone native, Miller. Excuse me, Admiral. The way you move. The way you speak, the way you look at the Queen. The Admiral shook her head. You're not just an Earth officer anymore, are you? Zoe met her gaze steadily. I'm something more now, a bridge between our worlds. That was my mission, wasn't it, First Contact? Your mission was exploration, not. The Admiral gestured vaguely. Whatever this is. With respect, Admiral. This is the most important discovery in human history, Zoe said firmly. Not just a new species, but a new kind of connection. A true meeting of minds. The Admiral studied her for a long moment. The scientists are fascinated by this bond you share. With the Queen, they want to study it. I'm not surprised, Zoe said. But they should understand it's not just a curiosity. It's the foundation for everything we've achieved here. Over the following weeks, negotiations progressed. The initial wariness gave way to genuine curiosity, and then to excitement as both sides began to recognize the potential benefits of alliance. Human adaptability and innovation complemented Viridian stability and wisdom. Their technologies filled gaps in each other's capabilities. Their strengths balanced each other's weaknesses. The Draxus threat provided urgency. The Viridians shared their intelligence reports showing the systematic expansion of Draxus territory. The pattern was clear. Earth would eventually be in their path. Have perhaps 5 of your Earth years before they reach your system. Vela, the military commander, explained during a strategy session. Less if they detect signs of advanced technology. We need more than an alliance, Admiral Wilson said grimly. We need a unified defense. Precisely what we have been advocating, Zalara said, with a glance at Zoe. The solution emerged gradually. A joint defense initiative combining human and Viridian forces, ships with hybrid technology, bases on strategic planets, training programs that merged both military traditions, and at the heart of it all, the unique bond that Zoe and Zalara shared. We believe this connection can be taught, Nara explained to the Earth scientists. Not to the degree that Commander Miller and Queen Zalara share it, but enough to allow true cooperation between our species. The idea was revolutionary. The implications far-reaching, a new kind of alliance not based merely on treaties and trade agreements but on genuine understandings. The negotiations neared completion. Zoe found herself facing a choice: return to Earth as a hero of First Contact, or remain on Viridia as the official Earth liaison. The decision should have been difficult. Her career, her home, her species all pulled her toward Earth. But when she looked at Zalara, when she felt the bond between them humming with shared purpose and deeper emotions, the choice was clear. I request permanent assignment to Viridia, she told Admiral Wilson during their final meeting. As Earth's official representative, the Admiral nodded as if she'd been expecting this. Approved, Commander. Though I suspect your loyalties are already divided. Not divided, Admiral, Zoe corrected. Expanded. I serve both worlds now because I believe their futures are intertwined. On the day of departure, Zoe stood with Zalara watching the Earth ship ascend into the sky, taking with it the initial treaty, the plans for joint defense, the beginning of a new era for both species. They will return, soon. Zalara said, with more ships, more people. The isolation of both our worlds is ending. Are you ready for that? Zoe asked. Zalara turned to her, a smile softening her regal features. Change is inevitable, but with you beside me, I welcome it. They clasped hands, the bond between them flaring with shared emotion. Without words, they communicated everything that mattered. Their hopes, their fears, their growing feelings for each other, and beneath it all, a bedrock certainty. This was right. This was meant to be. 1 year later, the first joint human Viridian ship was launched. A vessel of living crystal powered by Earth engines crewed by members of both species. At its heart, a new kind of neural network based on the bond that Zoe and Zalara shared, allowing humans and Viridians to work in perfect harmony. Zoe stood on the bridge wearing a uniform that combined elements from both worlds. The rank insignia of an Earth commander alongside the crest markings of a Viridian royal advisor. Her position was unprecedented. Ambassador, warrior, scientist, explorer, all these titles, and none of them quite captured her role.